So now that we know how waypoints work, let's talk a little bit about the new feature that we have that came about in the past week, right?
Yeah, I think we shipped it either this week or last week. I forget when it was, but very recently.
So you'll notice. Well, actually, I don't have my URL showing, so that's not the best thing in the world. However, we don't need it in order to talk about this. But when we go back to Spoke, I'm going to look at the Spoke scene. Like we said in the beginning, every waypoint has a name,
Hmm.
and so uh, if I were to click on one of these, for example, let's say maybe I'll do it with this giant one, for example. Let me rename the giant one. I'm going to call it Waypoint.
Or just name it like one word, just like giant or something like that.
I'll
Or
just call it. I'll call it Giant. Yeah,
yeah, that'll be easier to
it's just called
make sure.
Giant. Yeah, I'd probably recommend you don't use spaces in the names and things. I don't know how
Yeah, I
you
mean
do
it'll
it.
work. Like you just then you have to make sure you type it correctly and all that. So
That's all I'm going to do. I'm just going to name it Giant, and I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to name one of the other ones, like the one on the stage. Um,
and what for example,
oh,
let's do the
I
one on
already.
the
Let's
we
just
can do
call
the
it the
one on the
stage.
stage, and then we can disable clicking, for example, on that one.
Oh, okay.
So that you can't click to get onto the stage. You can only, I mean, you'll still be able to teleport onto it, but um,
Not
you know,
click.
we could fix that with the floor plan too. We could like disable the floor plan over
Oh,
there
that's
if we
true.
wanted to. Um,
So
but
no,
yes,
it's not clickable, but it is. It can be occupied. Um, do I check spawn point or not?
no, you don't need
You
to. I
don't
mean,
need to.
right.
In other words, that's actually an important thing, right? Um, Even though I'm going to use it as a way to spawn somebody to a specific point, turning off spawn point simply is saying don't add this to the
Don't
list of
right.
other spawn points people could just randomly end up in.
Right.
Um,
And because this isn't just used for spawning too. Like I can change the URL once I'm already in the room. I can type that hash at the end of my URL and it'll teleport me to it. It doesn't have to be just when I'm loading the page either.
all right, so all I have to do is hit publish again.
And then we'll have to
One
reload the
one
page.
is called Giant with a capital G, and one is called Stage with a capital S. And if I want to spawn into that, so now I can actually just pop back over here and
And we'll
reload.
have to reload. Yeah.
I'll reload just to do that first. And while I'm waiting for this to reload, which should only take a second, we'll talk about how we make it so that you show up in a specific spot. How do we do that, Dom?
Yeah. So if you're familiar with kind of how URLs work in general, you can link to a specific spot in a page, like a normal web page, using the hash symbol, like hash something. Um, and this is referred to as an anchor because that's what the HTML tag is called. But we use the same thing to link to a specific spot in a room. So it kind of works just like a normal URL would. And so you can take the link to a normal Hubs room that you already have, and then put hash symbol and then whatever the name of the waypoint is, and that'll be a link to a specific spot in the room. And you can just type that into your current URL bar, and it'll teleport you there right away without reloading the page. But you can also then use that link and send that link to someone, and they'll spawn into it in that spot. Um, and then importantly, like you can take that link, and there's a link element in Spoke, and so you can also drop that link into Spoke as well, and link from one spot of the room into another spot of the room. Um,
So the syntax, I'm typing it in the little chat so people can see it. It would
mhm,
have your URL, blah blah blah, all the garbage, and then like the secret,
mhm.
letters and numbers, and then the name of the room, and then do I just add a? Is it a ampersand or is it a
No, the
the
hash
hash
symbol.
hash
Yep.
symbol?
Mhm.
Um, if you're
And
old
then the
like
name
me, the pound sign.
pound sign.
Uh, and then just the name of the waypoint.
Mhm.
So all I'd have to type is pound giant or hash
Yep.
giant like that. Um,
Yep. And
so
then that
so
should.
this is essentially. I'm going to make it bigger just so you can see kind of what. Oh, really? It didn't make my text when I typed it.
Weird.
Oh, that's a bug. Oh, because it was
Oh,
because
I
it's
think
a
it's a
URL.
URL.
Because it's a
Yeah.
URL. I should have typed it like in quotes or something.
Yeah.
Um,
It's a URL, so try to load it.
blah 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 slash my room and then
Just hash
hash
giant.
giant like that. So that's essentially what the URL will look like. I'll just blow it up a bit so we can see it.
Mhm.
So it's really this end part that's important. Um, and so, like we said, it's not exactly super secure because
Mhm.
somebody could type in those waypoint names until they
Yep,
found
and you can
found one.
find the waypoint names if you downloaded the GLTF file, you can find it. But it's still very useful. Like I said, this is used, typically to like link into web pages, into some specific part of a web page. Like if you have an article on Wikipedia and you want to link to a specific section, you can usually they'll even use this little symbol um, to link to a specific part. And so it's just like linking into any other web page, except it's a spot in space, which is pretty cool.
So I just typed in hashtag giant,
Yep,
and
and
it just
you're
put
in
me
the.
here. Actually, I didn't have to reload the page to do
Mhm.
it, which is really
Yeah,
cool.
exactly. It doesn't have to reload the page, which is really nice.
And so if I typed stage instead, it'll just jump me to there,
Yep.
and I can still get out of it the way I did
And but now
before.
you'll see like I can't. Actually, I can see the stage. Did you make that one not clickable? I forget if we did that.
I think I made it non-clickable. Yeah,
Okay.
so that's the only way on the stage is to know that.
Oh, I think I'm in the old room.
Oh, you didn't
I
reload.
didn't reload. Yeah, but yeah, you'll see. So it's no longer clickable. So the only way to get onto that waypoint is to know that you know waypoint name and to type in that URL.
Which also means that in your space you could paste a link like this that would normally say visit room on it when you click it.
Exactly.
And when I click this visit room button now, uh, was that working? No.
Yeah,
Oh,
it worked for
it
me.
worked for you.
See.
It just pops you right on to the spot,
Yep.
um, which is really cool.
Yeah, exactly. And so you can put these into Spoke as well, um, to create, teleporters between rooms. And it's still pretty limited. Like I said, this wasn't even an intended feature. We just kind of noticed that it worked. So it's still going to show the thumbnail of the room and all that. And we want to have better kind of support for links in general, for kind of custom links so that you can make them look more however you want. But um,
like maybe
it's
you
still a
don't want
pretty.
that to say visit room. You want it to say like, go here, go to
Right, and
waypoint
we
or
have a we
something.
have a feature in the work. Kevin's working on a feature that it'll say teleport instead if it detects that it's a room, a link to the same room that you're already in, and also we're going to allow you to just link to just the hashtag. So it'll be like a room relative link, because the way you have to do it right now is you'd have to publish the room, get the URL for the room, add the hashtag, then put it into Spoke, um, which is a little roundabout. But what we're going to allow soon is you'll be able to just put the hashtag into the URL field, and that'll be like this hash in this room that you're in right now. And so that'll allow you to create scenes that already have a bunch of links to specific spots in the room, without having to republish it a bunch. Um, so that's coming soon.
That's awesome. Yeah, we've had a lot of requests for like, can I make a 3D object the link, or can I make
Yeah,
that sort
yeah,
of
and
stuff? And
that's yeah, we're figuring out the right way to do that, but like that's definitely on our roadmap. But it's been requested a bunch. So whether that comes in the form of like a generic kind of triggers system where you'll be able to
like click on
specify
the
when I click on this
chair.
thing then go
Right.
somewhere, or if it just comes from like today we were discussing maybe even simpler solution where it's just like, okay, any of the objects you can put already into Spoke also have a link property, and it's like, okay, this this sketchfab model, I can click on it to go to this URL as well. So some form of that will come. um,
Cool. Yeah. And so we're curious what people think. I want to, if you have ideas about how to use this, or,
mhm.
maybe there's some project you started a while ago, and maybe you were trying to work around not having this feature, and now you realize, oh my gosh, this would have saved me a ton of time. We'd love to hear that kind of feedback, either on the videos here themselves, or in our Discord especially. How are you going to use waypoints, or like how have they helped your projects, because you might have ideas that help someone else. So we'd love to
And I
hear.
noticed just looking back at chat, Liv was asking if we were covering the anchor point thing, and we just did. And then Fernando commented that that was a really nice feature, and he's actually the one who implemented uh, the anchor point thing.
Yay,
So
Fernando.
yeah, shout out to Fernando.
That was an awesome feature. And I particularly like the webbiness of the design, using it
Yeah, well,
similar to like a URL. I mean,
and like I
that's
said, what ended up being really cool is we didn't even think about the like fact that you could then link to it from within the same room. It kind of just we're like, oh yeah, of course that works because it's a URL. And so it's when you follow these kind of patterns, nice things emerge,
that's
which is
that's
cool.
why we have web standards and things like that,
Hmm.
right? To preach the Mozilla uh, ways of thinking. So,
Yeah, and Fernando's saying it'd be nice if there was a way to like move multiple people with a waypoint. I think that'd be really cool, like to kind of do the guided tour thing. So like be able to say like, okay, this waypoint, it's going to teleport everyone when I click on it, and be able to kind of move groups of people around. That'd be kind of
how
interesting.
difficult? Speaking of that, how difficult do you think it would be to support? You did mention waypoints like embedded in an object, kind of a thing.
Yeah, you're
To
going to ask about movable waypoints. Yeah,
movable,
yeah,
can I have a piggyback so people can
yeah,
jump on
yeah.
me and
Yeah.
I move them
So
around?
that's not a thing right now, but I think it would literally be a one line change. So right now we only move you when you click on it. The change would just be like basically every frame we continue to put you in the waypoint.
Maybe a
Um,
checkbox like is continuous, or like
yeah,
is
I mean we
something.
might not even have to. I mean I think it'd be performance wise it'd be fine. Like maybe like when you disable movement, we just do it automatically, or maybe we make it a separate checkbox. But you could do pretty cool things like you could put a waypoint on an avatar.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
so yeah, so you can put a waypoint on an avatar, and then yeah, you could ride that avatar
it'd be
and
Falcor, and you guys could hop on my back and I fly
yeah,
around.
exactly. You make like a horse or something, and then people can ride the avatar. That'd be really cool. And it would not be very hard to do. So that'd be pretty cool. And we similarly with the media frame stuff I've been working on, we're talking about having that also be something that will be movable, so that then you can on an avatar put a media frame on it, and then attach things to that media frame on the avatar. Yeah, like by having these like kind of simple reusable components, I think we can do lots of really cool stuff.
Oh man, I just now you've got all these ideas going in my head. Movable waypoints. I can make like a Ferris wheel or a
Because then they'd be
amusement park
animatable.
roller
Yeah,
coaster and make everybody sick. Oh, it sounds great.
yeah, it'll be really cool. Yeah, people were asked. There was actually a question in the discussion group on the GitHub discussion about making elevators, and one of the ways we could do that would be by adding support for movable waypoints. The tricky part is like using animations. We don't synchronize animations right now, like GLTF model animations, so we'd probably have to add support for that if we wanted to use it for that. But um, yeah, I think movable waypoints is definitely something we could support pretty easily, and I think we probably will implement that.
Well, that's awesome. I don't think there's anything left really to talk about. With waypoints themselves, but yeah, I think these examples kind of cover it pretty well. So
Yeah, hopefully this will be like a good resource we can point people at when they're asking about waypoints and just all the different kind of use cases. I think this covers a bunch of the common ones we see, but it's by all means not the only way you can use these things. I'm sure there are other creative ways people will come up to use these, especially now with the new linking stuff. I bet we're going to see kind of interesting uses